Hey, what's going on, everybody? How you guys doing? Welcome to another show. You're now listening to Season 6 of Debate Talk Radio. I'm your host, Showtime, and we are back with another classic show for you guys. Well, once again, we are back, and this is going to be an uploaded version of Debate Talk Radio. It's not live right now due to technical difficulties. However, we appreciate you guys checking out the show, and, of course, send me emails and let me know what you thought about this particular show. Of course, it's Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, so this is the Relationship Challenge. The title of the show, Are Men Without Livelihoods Entitled to Wives? Once again, Are Men Without Livelihoods Entitled to Wives? Of course, the creator of the Relationship Challenge is here. That's Emunah. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me once again, Brother Sal. It's good to be here. You know, we winging it today, but it's all good. I'm glad we have two wings, so we could go ahead and navigate this conversation. But it's a beautiful thing. Thank you, everybody, for coming back week after week for us to continue to have this very, very important conversation. So thank you once again for having me.
All right, so explain to the audience, being that we're using an alternative, whoever's listening out there, use an alternative number, how this works before we begin. Okay, so basically today we wouldn't be able to come on Blog Talk because of technical difficulties. So we're on the conference line. So in the way in which, if you're listening and you desire to chip in the conversation, just press *5* on your keypad, and that will raise your hand and give us an opportunity to know that you have a question or comment. So once again, *5* on your keypad, and that will get you into the conversation. So other than that, everything is pretty much the same. All right, cool. Okay. All right, so let's get the show started. I guess, Emunah, you can introduce the people that's on the panel. Go ahead.
All right, so basically today we have Sister Mayanah. So Sister Mayanah, welcome to the conversation. We are going into if men without wives are entitled to livelihood. Before we get there, Sister Mayanah, come up, introduce yourself, let them know what you're about, what's going on, and then we'll take it from there.
All right, well, shalom, everybody. All praises due to the Creator of all. And, as she said, we're going to kind of wing it today. I have anything in front of me, so I give you all my greetings. And welcome to the penultimate show for this particular segment. This time it's actually the final segment where we're going to have our male guest. So it seems like we have doubled up on masculine energy. We have a surplus of brothers today on the panel, so I feel very excited about hearing their input and having their contributions to this very important conversation because it's one of the establishing points to our family objectives. So being able to be in one accord with each other about what our families should look like. With regard to me and the projects that I have been involved with, as you know, many of us participate in projects that are geared towards bringing the people the kinds of information that they are interested in. I personally specialize in dealing with those matters that are a particular concern of the women. And to that end, I have partnered with Emunah and others to create a curriculum that addresses those types of concerns. By the end of the summer, there will be a website available that will showcase some of those objects and lessons. It will also have links to future writings that I will produce and the work that Sister Emunah has already produced. That website is for G2M Inc., I-N-K, and that is the umbrella brand because it kind of gives a nod to my Hasophoret activities. Hasophoret means the scribe, Sophoret being the feminine of Sophar, which is the scribe, and so you can look forward to material from me at that site. And if you want to ask me to create promo material for you, similar to that you have seen for Debate Talk for You, you can contact me at thephe.sophoret, SOSERET, @gmail.com and put in your request for me to do print work for you or to conduct workshops and such for typically and generally the women. So with that, I look forward to hearing the opening statements from everyone else.
Thank you so much for that, Sister Mayanah. Definitely a lot of stuff going on, a lot of things coming down the pipe, so take a look out for that. Thank you so much once again. Brother Ahmathyah, welcome back, Brother Ahmathyah. Please introduce yourself, let the people know what's going on before we get into this very important topic.
Okay, well, shalom and good evening, everybody. Ahmathyah from Brooklyn, very close and dear brother to Mayanah. I'm happy to be with you all today to discuss this very important topic, and I hope that we get some fruitful discussion and all to the glory of the Most High God. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Brother Ahmathyah. Bro.Mercy, are you there, Bro.Mercy? Feel free.
What the fuck is ain't nobody gonna win that war.
If you're not live right now, can you please mute your mics? Please mute your mics. I don't want to have to mute it on this. Bro.Mercy, are you there? Feel free to introduce yourself at this point. I don't see Bro.Mercy. All right, so Brother Ahwar, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Shalom, sisters and brothers. How you doing?
Shalom, brother.
Okay.
Share with the people what's going on, and then we'll be able to get right into the topic.
Yeah, everything's going on. Like I said, listen out for my show. It's coming. I'll be so busy. Something always coming up. Everything's good. I'm ready to do the show.
All right, sounds good. We were supposed to have one more guest. If you're there, Brother Chaviv, go ahead and press *5* so that I can see you. If you are on, I can't see through all the numbers, so press *5* so that I will be able to see you if you are on currently. But I don't see you as of yet.
You should be seeing it now.
Okay, what number are you calling from?
718-496.
All right, there you go. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Brother Chaviv and I and my sister Naomi, we have a very interesting conversation today, and I hope that we can continue in that conversation. So go ahead, Brother Chaviv, introduce yourself.
Well, my appellation is Chaviv, and I'm courting from Brooklyn, and pretty much I'm just here to give my input to the best of my ability after first listening in and hearing different feedback from the various different panel members, brothers and sisters, and hopefully that we can collectively and intellectually and pretty much more spiritually impart a knowledge to a listening audience from which we can all go spiritually for purpose and cause.
All right, thank you so much. So once again, my name is Emunah Israel. I'll be your co-host for this evening. We're going to go ahead and get started right about now, and I'm going to go ahead and give it over to Sister Mayanah. How this usually works is we have a listening audience whose opinions and thoughts are very important. We kind of open up the conversation. We go around the panel. So we go around a number of times, so you definitely don't have to get all that you have to say into the first go-round. Basically, we open up the conversation. You give your thoughts, and then we build on that each go-round until we finally go to the audience, maybe answer questions, comments, or further the thoughts. So with that said, I'm going to start off with Sister Mayanah to set the tone this evening. Sister Mayanah, bring forward, if you can, the conversation, the question that's on the table, and your thoughts. The mic is yours.
Right. Well, today we're going to interrogate the idea of whether or not a man without a livelihood is entitled to a wife. And I created a poll because, as is our custom, to poll the people and get into their minds and kind of assess what's going on the streets. What is the streets' consensus on this matter? And I'm sure you'll go ahead and reveal the results later in this segment. But in doing so, I was careful to emphasize that the question is not whether or not that man needs to come to the table wealthy, but whether or not he is going to be able to be in a stable position when entering into this particular space of his his life, where he is endeavoring to bring someone else in and move from being a dependent in his home to being a provider in a home of his own. So the language that was used to inquire of the people was very specific and deliberate. I want to pull up the poll question because I think that level of clarity is important. Even for here, I'm having a bit of an internet connection issue as well. But in general, what I emphasize is that we're talking about stability, and we're talking about before entering into the union and having these conversations. Very often what happens is that from my experience, I have observed that men become very defensive and want to make sure that we take into consideration that there are currently certain conditions that the men are experiencing that might prevent them from being as successful as they may want to be. But that's not what's at issue. What's at issue is whether or not they are stable. No one's asking for six figures. We're asking whether or not they're in the position to have what they desire. And in this case, we're talking about a woman, we're talking about a marriage, we're talking about a family. Those of you that have been listening to all of the previous shows that have come up to this moment, we have discussed the fact that building families involved, actually going into a marriage situation involving the elders, because this was a marriage between families, that it was not a matter of love necessarily or attraction necessarily or the desire of the individuals. That is a very modern kind of concept. Instead, cross-culturally, it was generally understood that these types of unions involved a much broader, included a much broader sense of family. And it was the elders who were orchestrating it because it was a marriage of whole clans or whole families, or even in some cases, entire dynasties. So with that in mind, the question becomes more prominent. Should a man who is not in the position to say, I have a stable environment for you, would that man in that position be eligible to pursue a bride? And I think that as we have these conversations, some of the old arguments will crop up, which is fine because we're prepared to address them as they do. I've seen some of these arguments, so I'm expecting a lot of repetition and recycling because, to be honest, we're not very creative. So with that, I'll yield the floor so that the magic can begin. Sister Mayanah is not holding any punches tonight. Thank you for that, Sister Mayanah. It's funny when you said that because I was referencing in my mind something that was a documentary. I'll save that for later, to put in my little 2 cents. But I'm going to come to Bro.Mercy at this point. The question on the table is, should a man without a livelihood, should he be entitled to women, a wife? Bro.Mercy, your thoughts, opening statements.
Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Okay, best of the I can hear you.
Okay. This is a very difficult question. It's more of a difficult question than we may know of. I'm going to start off with a few verses. I'm going to read 2 Thessalonians 3:10. And this is the verse my father quoted to me my entire life. My father didn't know the Bible as well as I do, but he just knew this one verse, and he just kept saying it over and over. But it says, 2 Thessalonians 3:10, for even when we were with you, we commanded you this, if anyone will not work, neither shall he eat. Now, he just kept saying that over and over. Man don't work, he don't eat. So, in simple terms, if a man don't work, he don't eat. So, and so in simple terms, my dad told me, he wasn't the most educated person And, you know, he didn't have any college degrees, but he just kept saying that one verse over. To him, if a man don't work, you know, he shouldn't sit at the table and eat dinner. So, I'm going to go to Genesis chapter, I'm going to the beginning. I'm going to go to chapter 2. And it talks about why God made man. Okay? It says in chapter 2, verse 4, this is the history of the heavens and the earth when they were created. In the day that the Lord God made the earth and the heavens, before any plant of the field was in the earth, and before any herb of the field had grown, for the Lord God had not caused it to rain on the earth, and there was no man to the ground, but a mist went up from the earth and watered the whole face of the earth. And the Lord God formed man out of the dust of the ground, and breathed his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living being. The Lord planted the garden east of Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. So the purpose of man was to till the ground. The purpose of the man was to work the garden that the Lord God had planted. Now, the only weakness I see in Adam, and Adam did get a wife, but he got him when he was asleep because the Lord God put him to sleep. So I never see Adam doing any work in this little story. And as a result, Adam was stable. He was stable. They were living in paradise. He was living in paradise, the garden the Lord had planted, the beautiful garden. But yet they got put out because he didn't have a good work ethic, in my opinion. He didn't do any work. And what did God tell Adam? You know, you should work, but you should do some work. You should work by the sweat of your brow. And then one last thing I'm gonna go to, because I'm gonna throw a little wrench in this dynamics. I'm gonna use Jacob. Genesis chapter 29. Now Jacob, in my opinion, he's not well established. He doesn't have stability. You know, he gets into a dispute with his brother. His parents tell him to leave the house because his brother's ready to kill him. So the parents tell him to leave, and Jacob doesn't pay a dowry for the wife, which was the custom. But he says to his uncle Laban, he says in verse 18, now Jacob loved Rachel, so he said, I will serve you 7 years for Rachel, your younger daughter. So I believe Jacob offered this servitude to his uncle in exchange for a wife because he knew he had a financial stability. And what we see here, the uncle provides employment for his nephew. So although he wasn't stable, and then he didn't get the wife right away. You know, Laban probably in them 7 years probably had a couple talks with his nephew, probably, probably mentioned him a little bit, But at the same time, he provided him an employment, and after the 7 years was up, and probably Jacob had become a established man after 7 years, so that's another part of the economy. What are we doing to equip our men? Like Nabal, he equipped Jacob. Although he just say, "You're not stable, nephew. You ain't got no money. Bye. See you later." No, but he said, "Well, I'll work you in the field for 7 years." So that's what I see in this. So if a brother's not stable, he got a good work ethic, ladies, he got potential. And that's all I had to say.
All right, now that was the verse of Bro.Mercy. He got it popping early. He went from Genesis to Jacob, which is definitely going to stir the pot. As we continue on in the opening statements, if a man don't work, he don't eat. Question: if a man don't work, does he get a wife? I'm going to go now over to Brother Ahmathyahs, who's on the line. Brother Ahmathyahs, your opening thoughts on the conversation.
Okay, thank you. I actually think that the answer to this question, which is a good question, is quite simple. The answer is no. If a man does not have the capability to provide in the here and in the now, is he able to have a woman? The answer to that question is simply put, no. For the simple fact that if you are taking a wife, that means that you are now entrusted with the care of this woman and with the maintenance and to make sure that this woman has all the provision that she needs. And if you are not able to do that financially, that does not reflect poorly upon you as a man, but it does reflect poorly upon you as a man if you take the responsibility of that and you are not capable of handling it. As a matter of fact, when we jump into the scriptures, for example, if we want to look a proof of what I'm saying, when we jump to Timothy, First Timothy 3.
Abimelech's not doing. He ain't doing nothing, isn't he?
Sorry for 1 second, Brother Ahmathyah. Right now, I don't have all the lines muted, so if you're not talking at this time, please mute your mic so that we don't hear your conversation in the background there. Thank you so much. Thank you for the appreciation. Brother Ahmathyah, once again, the mic is yours.
No problem. 1 Timothy 5 and 7. All right. Reading from the ESV just for a moment, it says, "Command these things as well, so that they may be without reproach. But if anyone does not provide for his relatives, and especially for members of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever." All right. So as a man, if you are unable or rather unable or unwilling to provide for your own household, which most definitely would include your wife, I don't think any one of us would debate that. We understand, and we would look at you as someone who is an unbeliever, for the simple fact that if you're not capable of providing for your own house, and if you can, and you don't, then most definitely you would not provide for a stranger. In addition to that, this also presupposes the whole idea of you being able to provide for your home and being able to maintain a stable household for your life. All throughout the scriptures in the Old Testament, we see when men came to the father of the bride to entreat them as husbands, when they came as suitors, they came with money. All right, they didn't come empty-handed. They had to show that they were able to provide for the wife in both giving the father a dowry, okay, and being able to provide a stable home for her. Now, the brother made an excellent point in saying that men are not without potential and they should be overlooked for it. But the fact of the matter is, if you're looking to take a wife, then the best thing for you to do is to come up to that potential to a certain level, at least, where you are able to maintain, where you are able to provide for her, where you are able to meet her basic needs, where you are able to provide for her needs, for her wants, and be able to, maintain pretty much a stable house. I'm definitely not saying that you need to be rich to do this, all right? But you cannot tell me that you don't have a penny to your name. You don't even have a resume. The limit to your experiences is working at McDonald's jobs or odd-end jobs. You can't provide for yourself. You're living in a one-room shack. You're still in your mother's basement. You're still driving your father's car. You're still wearing your older brother's T-shirts, and all of a sudden now you want to come and to think that you can provide for a woman. If you can't provide for her financially to a certain extent, all right, then you're not leaving yourself any room to be able to also provide for her emotionally. For the simple fact that if you cannot provide, then that's an extra burden and worry that you're putting not just on her, but on yourself. All right. So since you're putting that burden on her knowing that you cannot provide, then there's no way that you can alleviate her of that burden and able to deal with the relationship when it comes down to other issues that she may have emotionally. That's something that she should have. That's something that you should be able to provide and to prove to her to a certain extent at least, and be able to come to her and to be able to show her that you are not only willing but also able to provide for her financially. You're able to provide for the children that you may have, that you're able to plan, that you're able to budget, okay, that you are able to maintain these basic needs, these basic necessities as a man, as a guide in the home, as the leader of the home, to be able to maintain these things so that she can freely express herself in the role and to fulfill herself or to fulfill her role as a wife. So, in short, should a man be able to take on a wife if he cannot financially provide? The answer is most definitely not. And to that, I pass the mic. Thank you.
Woo! This sounds like what love got to do with it. that was I got some questions for you fellas because we got some doctrine floating around here. I guess we'll get to that doctrines in round 2. But as we are in the open, I think I have 2 more to go. So I'm gonna go to Brother Chaviv. Thought in your opening statements, if a man cannot provide, should he be entitled to a wife or wives? Your question. Your thoughts on the matter.
Now, I've listened inattentively, and I've heard pertinent and valid points you mentioned. Now, in my study of theology, I was taught to take one word of the Tanakh or scripture of any divine book and do what is called exegesis, which means to exhaust it to the utmost degree before you present it. And therefore, again, I reiterate my point. I've heard a few pertinent points being said, but those points have been said based on the limitation of how we personally internalize or interpret the scripture. For a broader talk about Adam. Now, one of the factors with Adam had shelter, Adam had a job, and Adam had the 3 basic necessities before Eve was given unto him. Now, the whole narrative of everything that took place then was not penned. But based on what little was penned, we can see that. We also see in scriptures where there has been brothers or patriarch who had nothing, but the most important thing that we are factoring, which we are missing, is the fact that they have the ability to. And upon the time in which they received their wife, they might not have had the full resources as they want to make a full provision. But being in fact that they had the ability to did not deprive them from. Now, it was also mentioned that in the time of old, which has not changed because God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He changed not. The custom was and is that the groom would go to the father and request hand of the daughter. It is the father's responsibility and job to evaluate this groom if he is competent enough to take his daughter and care for her in the same or even a greater capacity as the father has. Now, a typical illustration of which was brought forth was Laban and Jacob. Jacob went there being poor because he ran away leaving everything behind. But the mere fact that he was family and he had the potential, he was able to be guided and be provided with what was needed to take care of his wife. And of course, he was able to get 2 wives in the future to come forth. And we see where, because of his faithfulness or being called by God, provision was made unto him in which, in the time to come and future to come, he was able to provide tremendous amount. So there's a lot of factors in which have to be tactically and analytically evaluated before we can give a resounding yes or no. But now, if after the father evaluates the man-child or the groom to be, and it has been brought to his awareness with satisfaction that this is a non-progressive, non-productive man who has no ability, no trade, no skill, has never worked, comes from an extreme poor family, has no way of making anything successful for himself, that's when the determination should be effectively made. So everything has to be done from a spiritual guideline. Now, we can pick points, select, and choose every point of scripture that could be beneficial unto ourselves to give the most practical answer. But in all actuality and reality, we have to look at it very openly, as so not to guide anyone in the wrong direction to make a decision which will actually alter them in the future to come. Because one could say no now, and in so doing, misses on the greatest opportunity that could have ever happened. Because we have heard the term from rags to riches. Okay, and we have seen also where the wealthy have become poor. So one has to, in my evaluation to the question, and use the scripture as a divine guidance, the parent, if we embrace back the ancient customs and evaluate the young man, know the family from which the young man is coming from, and evaluate properly the situation, we will better be able to make a proper determination if we should give our daughter to this man based on his potential and his proposal. So the Jacob's narrative is a pretty much ideal narrative. I'm more inclined to using that one as a perfect illustration to being a poor man and becoming rich. Because he shows that he has the potential, he has the ability, he has the willingness, he has the determination. And he also has a relationship with the Creator, which is first and foremost pertinent. So once you have that intimate relationship with the Most High and you're being guided and allow yourself to be guided, then all things are possible. And with that, I turn the mic over.
Very interesting. That was the voice of Brother Chaviv on the opening statements. I think I'm going to come to Brother Ahwar at this point. You know, some interest. I got to go ahead and mark some of this stuff down. You know, we're going to touch on
I'm writing, Jeff. You already know.
But, yeah, you jotting it. That's Sister Mayanah, the scribe over there, you know, jotting it down. So, Brother Ahwar, thank you for that, Brother Chaviv, and welcome to the show. Brother Ahwar, your thoughts, your opening statement. If a man don't work, does he get a wife? Your thoughts.
Right. Let me start off with this, right? This is Ecclesiastes 10 verse 19 in the Apocrypha, in the Bible. A feast is made for laughing, and wine maketh merry, but money answereth all things. So the question remains, should a man have a wife and he doesn't have a livelihood? No, he shouldn't have a wife. Okay, because if you can't take care of yourself, how could you take care of anybody else? But I must say this as well. If I do have money to get me a wife, I'm going to get something brand new, like a virgin. Okay, I have an old saying when I teach. If I want me a new pair of shoes, don't bring me no shoes that had they foot in. Okay, so if I'm going to spend money, I want something brand new. So that's all I want to put out. I'm not going to be long. I'm just going to put it down like that, and I'm going to pass the mic.
Brother Ahwar, that was the opening statements and conversation. For those who are listening, if you have any questions or comments as we go along, feel free to press *5*. Thank you for joining us and adjusting to our little change here as we have to catch back ourselves with the issues over at Blog Talk. So, Sister Mayanah, I know you was listening attentively and jotting down maybe some questions, some comments you may have. So at this point, the mic is yours.
Yes, and the brothers don't disappoint. They really don't disappoint. A lot of things were said. Some of them were valid. Some of them were amusing. When I think about the example that was given regarding Adam, I want to go over some of these examples. They're good examples, and I think some of them deserve a little further interrogation. With the example of Adam, Adam was employed. Adam was given, we talked about this before, that the first task, the first office that man was ever given was to dress and to keep the garden. It was work. He was given a task, and that task has a name. It's called husbandry. And that is the very first office that a man was ever given. Before he was a priest, before he was a king, before he was a prophet, before he was anything. The first thing that he was ever given was the office of husbandry. And then later, and only after he understood what it meant to dress and keep a garden, did the father give his daughter to him. Because he had to first prove that he understood what it meant to be responsible for something, what it meant to nurture something, what it meant to plant something and then see it come to fruition due to your diligence and your effort. That's what husbandry involves. Bro.Mercy makes the point that he wasn't as diligent in his task as he should have been because things within his household did not remain in order. And so later, in the third chapter, that gets put back in order by the Most High when the Most High tells Eve what she did wrong and how to remedy that, and him what he did wrong and how he should remedy that. Now, one thing that's very common is that all of women are very well versed in all of the things that women are supposed to do and tend to omit or skirt around the judgment that was against them. There's a lot of conversation about how difficult it is to make ends meet and how very difficult and whatever conditions are currently at play against their ability to produce or be productive or be as successful as one might imagine. But that is part of their judgment. They would say that it would be thorns and thistles by the sweat of their brow. This is not going to be an easy walk for you. It's not going to be that I'm going to place you in abundance and let you walk around naming things, and things are going to yield easily to you. Now it's going to be by the sweat of your brow and thorns and thistles. This is a very difficult process. So the idea that our men are going through a difficult process, that the struggle is real, the struggle is predictable because it's already established. Going forward, there's a lot of conversation about Jacob. Now, I was reading some of the comments that was going on the floor.
Hit it again, or if I start.
Yeah, who am I competing with?
So I know I'm
hitting. Yeah, hold on 1 second. Can you please mute your mics? If you're not talking right now, please mute your mic because we could kind of hear your background conversation. It'll be greatly appreciated. I don't want to have to mute everybody on this side. That's kind of a little bit of a pain. So sorry about that, Sister Mayanah. The mic is yours.
Okay, thank you. So when we're talking about Jacob, for example, like a similar conversation was happening on the floor when we were looking at the people to having this discussion prior to the broadcast, and that was brought up as well. But here's the thing. Jacob, at the time, was not already established. He was literally on the run from, quote, Esau, unquote. Literally the person Esau. He was literally on the run. And no, he was not established. But he went to his uncle, and he didn't say, I am a man, and I have all of this potential. Give me your daughter. What he said was, I will work for 7 years for you. And during that 7 years, he established himself. The reason I was talking earlier about putting it in the context that he's literally on the run from Esau is that is a kind of addressing the matter that some men have entered into conditions that have the consequence that they're not employable in traditional spaces in modernity because they have a past and possibly have difficulty, although there are very many, several companies that will take you even if you have some kind of past, but not everyone has access to those opportunities, and we understand that. But like Bro.Mercy said, his future father-in-law provided a way for him to do that. So what he did was, rather than point to his penis and declare that his masculinity entitled him to a woman, he pointed to the fact that he was willing to work for it. And his father-in-law gave him the opportunity to build up and amass a foundation so that he could give his daughter to him. It was not because the brother, and I don't want to say his name poorly, but he pointed out, he claimed that he was properly educated in the importance of exegesis and the full critical explanation and interrogation of the text, particularly Scripture. However, this idea that potential was sufficient to secure a wife is not consistent with Scripture. It's not. He spoke also of patriarchs. We have no patriarchs. That the patriarchs being Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We have no patriarchs that entered into a union with nothing but their potential and declared themselves eligible for marriage. Abraham came from money. Abraham had, and Abraham received increase. He also married his niece. So it's not as if this was not something that was well prepared. That he was not well prepared for this. Furthermore, he continued to increase. So this is not something that, we never said that the person has to come into a union wealthy. We said they should come into the relationship stable, able to provide stability. Whether or not that stability increases or decreases after the fact is not the question on the table. The question on the table is, how do you begin the relationship? That brother also went on to say that there's this process of assessing the man. And even in this explanation, he stated that it is before he gives his daughter. He is going to examine whether or not this man is going to, whether or not this man produces, because his potential is not good enough. You can't buy any, you can't put food on the table with potential. You can't do anything with potential. Potential that is not tapped into, potential that is not exercised, potential that has no fruit. Because when everything, even a child is known by his fruit. Everybody knows that it is not your potential, but rather what you do with that potential. Because potential that is left dormant is useless. And in all the things that we do, the object is to bear fruit, not to merely have a seed has the potential to become something, but if it is not properly rooted or properly planted, it is just a seed that does nothing. It never becomes something that can nourish the people. No fruit will come of it. So, this idea of reversal of fortune and that we should not write off a person because we don't know what the future may hold for them. That is a very beautiful sentiment, worthy of hallmark, but not something that we hang the hopes of our daughters on. What we do instead is that when that man has presented that he is capable of receiving and maintaining a daughter of the Most High, then they build together whatever is going to happen or however the Most High has decided that their union will continue. But he doesn't come into the union with nothing, absolutely nothing, but his potential. And again, it's very important to stress here because I have seen it happen many, many times where this discussion of stability still sounds like and somehow goes through very curious filters where the listener still hears lots and lots of money. That we are saying that the person must come with a pocket full of money. No one is saying that. They should be able to say, I'm taking your daughter out of your home into another home. I have a home for her. I will be able to provide her necessities. And I will be able to maintain the family that we want. And until we can provide for it, when we can provide for more things, children will come. When we can provide, as you are able to do it. We understand this concept in every other aspect of our living, but we tend to want to romanticize or become overly PC, I suppose, for lack of another term is coming to me. But we're very, especially women. Women are very loath to have any expectations of our men. It's like we're afraid to say, we believe in you. We trust that you can do these things. And the men have to kind of divorce themselves from this idea that if they don't eat from the structures that the government has provided for them, they won't eat at all. What I mean by that is we see, for example, Jacob was able to lend his labor to his father-in-law. If you have a skill, parlay that skill. If you are good at drawing, if you are good at building, if you are good at rapping, singing, wherever you can make money, because I know that if anything, our brothers can hustle. When you wanted to cut school and hustle on the streets, you did that. When you wanted to go and do shows and be rappers and freestyle, you did that. So now that you want to be a husband and you want to be a father, you know how to make money without going with to a white-collar institution or to a white-collar job. There are ways to get around that if that is what you want to do. And you do not have to be wildly successful, but if what you want is a wife, then you have to be in the position to receive the blessing you are asking for. And with that, I yield the floor because I'm very curious what the men have to say.
All right. This is the voice of Sister Mayanah. For those who have just joined us, thank you and welcome. This is Debate Talk for you over here on the conference live because you already know. But this is very interesting. As we're going on these next rounds, if you have any questions for those who are on the round table, feel free to press *5*, as well as if those on the round table have questions for one another, we can do that as well. Because this conversation is real. I'm going to come to Bro.Mercy next, because what's happening is the men are actually giving this narrative, sharing this narrative with the women to say, hey, you know, you do what you do and I do what I do. You come with whatever you need to come with. And it's not my responsibility to provide for you. Maybe the government should provide for you, or you provide for yourself, and I'll still call my name husband. Is that correct? Can one still be a husband, a provider, when they don't provide? Question, you know. And so we're going to continue on. And after we go around this table the next time, then we're going to come to the listening audience. So once again, Bro.Mercy, have you heard out there this conversation of men acquiring women without any financial stability? As we're saying, again, everybody's saying, and it's very true, you can't eat, quote, love. It has to materialize. And Bro.Mercy, your thoughts?
But I think that this thing is, see, when you use a word like stability, it's subjective. And because if you're making $100,000 a year, but you live in $1 million home, you're not stable. So, you know, that's the whole thing. You know, it's like you got brothers out here that got jobs, that play for the daggone NBA, got all this money, but still don't do nothing for their kids. So you can't just say that this brother, just because he got a good income, that he's going to be a good dad. And, you know, and I think it's that piece, because you hear stories like this all the time. It's not just the broke brothers. You got brothers out here that got jobs. I know brothers that got jobs, still got problems paying child support. You got brothers getting locked up for not paying child support. So obviously, you know, the brothers, you know, they get the job like they get the job, they driving nice cars and all this. So it just depends on, you know, the mentality of the brothers. I keep going back to Adam, and I'm gonna stick with Adam because I don't think we really paying attention to what happened with Adam. If you look at what happened with Adam, how he got his wife, in verse 21, it said, "And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall on Adam, and he slept." I think some of our men today are in a deep sleep. I really do think so, because they think they providing, but they not providing. And he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh in its place. So then the rib which the Lord God had taken from the man, he made it to a woman, and he brought her to the man. He brought her. Look, the Lord brought Eve to Adam while he was asleep. I know we can't see that, but that's what happened. So that's problematic to me. To me, that's problematic. Maybe nobody sees a problem with that, but that's what I see going on today. You got men today that are married, they are asleep. And really, sometimes it takes us men longer to wake up. You know, maybe it does. But I just wanted to say, you keep talking about this problem, and the problem does exist. But what I'm saying, what I see in Jacob is wide awake. You know, I mean, Jacob is not perfect, but he's wide awake, though. You know, he goes to Laban and says, "I work for you, Laban. You know, I worked 7 years." And, you know, he had what I would call a layaway plan. So y'all need to understand what I'm saying. You know, you don't get what you buy now. It's a plan. You know, I'm going to put away some money, you know, gradually till I'm able to afford this. So it was a plan, you know. And see, that's what brothers like today. They like a plan. So, you know, they expect to get the wife today. As soon as they drive up to the car lot, they expect to drive up the car the same day they walked on the car lot. But that's not what Jacob did. Jacob had a layaway plan. It took him 7 years. Actually 14 total, but 7 years for this plan to come to fruition. So what I see here, a man need to have a plan. So that's why I say Jacob. And see, Adam is different because Adam, he didn't plant the garden. The Lord planted the garden. So, you know, so I don't see Adam doing any entrepreneurial skills here. I see him just living off what God has provided. He's not making his own thing go on. So I just wanted to say that, because some men are living off their mother. You know, they're not doing anything on their own. They're living off their mother. But there are a lot of brothers that are doing the right thing. There are a lot of brothers that are doing what's right. You know, so I want to give my brothers credit. I don't want to make it sound all negative. But I just wanted to stress the fact that brothers need to wake up and stress the fact that you may not be stable at that, like Jacob's case, he wasn't stable. He wasn't trying to get the wife that day. You know, he said, I'm going to wait 7 years, and I'm going to work for you 7 years. So where's that in today's society? I don't see that going on. I don't see nobody planning. I see everybody saying, I want my wife right now. I want it now. So that's all I have to say.
Uh-oh, Brother Mercy just dropped a little something into the soup. This is as we're talking about Jacob. Indeed, he had to wait. She wasn't his wife. She was betrothed. And after he was finished, he was like, now give me my wife. It was an agreement. And that, even though, like you said, he arrived, he didn't have it, and he understood there was no way that I was going to walk up out of here, just be like, yo, I want her for Maisha, and next thing you know, he captured Rachel. He already knew that wouldn't happen. And because he didn't have money and he had time, he had to do that exchange. And like you said, 7 years, that's kind of a long time. How many people are planning to be able to take care of someone and the offspring that's going to come from that union for such a long time? Questions. Brother Ahmathyah, I know you're there, chilling in the cut. I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic to you. Your thoughts on this conversation as it develops.
All right, thank you very much. Just going to address a couple of things. And I guess I'll go in reverse order since everyone's memory is more fresh in that way. One, the problem that Brother Mercy was just addressing, with all due respect, really has nothing to do with the topic, because that, in all actuality, is a morality issue. If you have a man who is making enough money, yet he is unwilling to take care of his children, to provide for the home, whether he's with the mother or not, then that just goes to show that his moral that goes to show his moral character, that he has none. All right. So we would have to address that situation upon its own merit on a whole nother basis. The topic that we're talking about is not someone's morality necessarily, but their capability and the power that they have in the here and in the now to maintain. If you don't have it in the here and in the now, then don't expect it in the here and in the now. Everyone is going back to Jacob to see how he was able to get his woman, and I kind of applaud that because that is a wonderful example. But we also have to remember that in the narrative of Jacob and how he got her, it says Jacob loved Rachel, and he said, I will serve you 7 years for your younger daughter Rachel. Laban said, it is better that I give her to you than I would give her to any other man. Stay with me. So Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed to him but a few days because of the love he had for her. So we see even in this narrative that this man loved this woman enough to subject himself to 7 years, and after that, 14 years to work for her. During the time that he is able to work for her, he's actually amassing provision where he is able to take her sister, to take the children that they have together later on, and to provide for them. The reason why he was able to do that was because, first and foremost, his intentions towards the woman was correct. What was his intentions? What was his emotional feelings behind her? He loved her. So which means that he had no problem working for her, with the understanding that he was going to get her after he received his provisions, not before. His potential had next to zero to do with it, because you can have potential out the wazoo. Potential is not going to pay the gas bill. You cannot tell your landlord that, listen, I can't give you this month's rent, but I got plenty of potential. He's not going to want to hear it. Not only that, you will not be able to turn to your wife and say, listen, sweetheart, we're going to have to go live in the shelter, but don't worry, I have plenty of potential. We are not talking about what may happen in the future. Nobody here is omniscient. That's up to the Most High to know what's going to come down the pipeline, all right? But we as people can try to plan for today in the sense that we should be able to, as men, recognize where we are, recognize what we want, recognize where we want to be with this potential woman, and be able to put ourselves in a position where we can provide for them. Because in no example would you see a man coming to another man for his daughter, or to get a woman by her family and he is able to show her his potential. That just doesn't exist, all right? You're talking about a time where you had the bride price, where you had to go. You and all your family had to go and present money to the family and to the woman to be able to get her, okay? You had to show that you had financial backing. This had nothing to do with what you could do. It had to do what you can do in the here and in the now. So when it comes down to your potential is nice, but potential.
Are you done with your shower? Are you done taking your shower?
Put your phone on mute. Sorry about that, brother. Put your phone on mute.
No problem.
Go ahead, brother.
No problem. Potential is nice, okay? But at the end of the day, potential is just not enough. Why? Because it's unrealized. You're talking about potential. It's unrealized. It's like a check. It's like a check that you have in your hand that you haven't cashed yet. What good is it to you unless you take it to the bank and you actually cash it and bring the fruits of that check? It's absolutely nothing. All right. Furthermore, we see other examples in later on in the scriptures where it talks about specifically a man not taking care of his house. It says that he's worse than an infidel. All right. That pretty much answers it. That pretty much answers it all. If you have a house and you're not taking care of her, which actually goes back to what Bro.Mercy was saying. Well, if we see somebody who is unwilling to take care of his home, unwilling to take care of his children, and he just drops, he flat leaves them, then he's counted as worse than an infidel. An infidel is someone who commits sacrilege to something that's sacred. I mean, there in the ancient world, the term infidel was very vile. It was very low. It doesn't have the umph that it had back then today. You didn't want to be classified as an infidel. All right. In addition to that, men who have daughters, all right, I'm sure if their daughters are precious to them, and we're talking about daddy's little girl, you're not going to want to see some guy knocking at your door for your daughter one day, and all he has coming to you, all right, is his two hands swinging, but he can talk about his potential. His potential unrealized means absolutely nothing to you, which is exactly why I have no problems in telling the ladies, if you have a suitor who's coming to you and he's showing interest, there is absolutely nothing wrong with you asking for some proof that if you do decide to get married with this person, that he is able to financially provide for you. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. You should not feel ashamed to ask that, okay? Because finances is a real thing. Mayanah eloquently stated that we are not saying that you necessarily have to be rich. You don't have to be the Black Bill Gates, but damn it, you have to come with something, all right? You have to come with realized potential. Potential by itself is absolutely nothing, all right? So if the ladies come to us men and they're asking us for our credit scores, if they're asking us for the last 3 jobs that we worked, references, all right, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. For the simple fact that men, especially men of Israel, unfortunately, have absolutely no problem championing their rights about how they are the head, how what they say goes, X, Y, Z, ABC, 1, 2, 3. They have no problems with taking certain verses, certain proof texts, and using it to bash it against the women's heads, all right, to the ground. But now, when it's the women's turn to do it rightfully, lawfully, and morally so, we have a problem with that. It just simply doesn't work, all right? Unequal scales is a abomination unto the Most High God. So which means if you are willing to champion the fact that you are the head, then you better be able to provide like one. You better be able to maintain the house like one. You better be able to pay a cell phone bill like one, light bill like one. Don't tell her about your potential. She should want to hear you, all right? And not only should she not want to hear you, all right, I think that it would be a denigrating act upon herself for her to even to entertain you. why should she even look your way? Because she's worth more. She's worth more than the Most High. And she should be worth more than to give herself. So with that, I yield.
Okay. We wait our turn to let everybody speak. Yeah, everybody please. We're hearing a little bit of feedback. Hold on, I'm just gonna
Conference muted.
All right, we're just going to have to mute everybody's mic, and then I'm going to unmute it. Wow. Brother Ahmathyah just dropped it so heavy, all the mics just got jacked up. You know, when you were speaking, the song came to my mind. It was like, can you pay my bills? Can you pay my telephone bills? You remember that crazy song? But for real, that's the question that's on the table tonight, because the reality is some men get really offended at that conversation. I've seen people say they're not ATMs and they shouldn't have to pay. And like you said, many people are having the one-sided conversation, everything that is required of you and not so much that's required of the male. So, yeah. At this point, let me see. I'm so sorry. Brother Robert, I'm sorry I missed you on several go-rounds. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the mic, give thanks to Brother Sal for hitting me up and letting me know that I forgot one of our panelists here. My apologies. The mic is open to you at this point. Feel free to combine. You can do the combo. You can combine your intro thoughts and then build on that thought. The mic is yours at this time, Brother Robert.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Well, I mean, I appreciate the invite to even be on the panel. And, as I've been listening, if I could just, I heard a lot of good points. In fact, there were some points and some scriptures and things that I wanted to bring out. But, hey, the other panelists said it so eloquently. So if I can just, I guess, encapsulate some of the things that they were saying, what I hear, okay, is we need to return back to the old past. Because when we go, when I heard Bro.Mercy, he was going all the way back to the garden and looking at the role of Adam. He also went over to Jacob and what he did, and we looked at, Adam's job description. I believe the sister was talking about, him in husbandry, and then we look at how basically Jacob worked 14 years, for two of his wives. Obviously Leah, and then another 7 years for Rachel. So what I'm hearing is that, we should return back to the old past. Now, before I get into my point, let me just go ahead and get one scripture that wasn't mentioned just yet. And it pertains to the question, okay, to the topic of the discussion, which is, if a man is poor or he doesn't have any means, or if he doesn't have, an income or something, should he, or is it permissible that he could have a wife? Now, I say, yes, he can, okay, but you have to hear me out. When I go to 1 Corinthians 10 and 23, it says there, all things are lawful for me, but all things are not expedient. All things are lawful for me, but all things edify not. So, let me qualify my statement. Can a man of no means have a wife? Yes, he can. Now, should a man of no means have a wife? No, he shouldn't. Because when we come together, we're supposed to add to one another. Okay, we're supposed to build up. I'm not supposed to take a wife only to bring her down to my level of poverty. I'm supposed to build up. And so, again, with that, as far as us going to the old path, look at some of the things that we brought out. Okay, we brought out a man should have some sort of occupation, whether it is something as simple as a trade or something entrepreneurial. Okay, but we also have to put a little bit. Now, I know the focus is on the guys, and I'm going to keep it there, but I am going to mention something about the ladies too. What I'm going to say is, if we are to return to the old past, our sisters should not give a man the time of day if he's not ready. If he does not have a plan, if he's not working on his plan, if he doesn't have a goal, and he's not executing that goal, then a sister shouldn't give him the time of day. Because a man, if he wants something really bad, he'll work for it. And so if he can't have a woman's hand in marriage, Okay, but he really wants her, and if he has a love like Jacob loved Rachel, then he's going to say, hey, you know what? I need to get my act together. I need a job. I need to get my hustle. I got to grind. I got to start a business. I got to do something. And imagine if our society was like that. We see a lot of deadbeat dads. We see a lot of men derelict in their duties, not doing what they should do. But guess what? The women accept them. How many times we see the men that they are this new generation of men and all they're doing all day is playing video games, no ambition, not doing anything, and yet they still have women. We wouldn't see a lot of that if the women wouldn't give them the time of day. Now, I'm not blaming the women. I'm not saying that. Let me jump back on the guys. Okay? When we go back to, the financial means, that is subjective. Does someone, we can put a monetary figure on it. A guy making, $50,000 a year, or a guy making $300,000 or $500,000 a year. That's all subjective, because all of us, we have different needs. We have the same basic needs, food, clothes, shelter, something like that. We all want to live at a certain level of comfort, but everyone is a little bit different. But being a real man isn't measured solely on the amount of money that he makes. Let's take two fictitious characters, because I remember Sister Emunah, she was talking about the, that song, and she was saying, can you pay my bills and things like that. Okay, if we look at two fictitious fathers, like for instance, James Evans from Good Times, and then we look at Cliff Huxtable, from the Cosby Show or whatever, I think we can all agree that these were two pretty good fathers, both of different financial means, but we wouldn't say one is any less a man than the other. Why? Because they both worked hard and they both provided. They both were clearly, the leaders in their homes. So it's not necessarily the monetary amount. Okay, well, you're not a real man or a real husband, or you're not husband material unless you're making $500,000 a year. Okay, well, we can't say that. Okay, because everyone's need is a little bit different. So it goes back to, all things are lawful, but not all things edify. So we have to go back to that level. So we need to go back to the old paths. We need to be setting the standard. But in order for us to do it, we need a little bit of help from the ladies, and that'll weed out the men who are not ready or unworthy at the time. Okay? You're not ready. I tell my son, go ahead, finish. He just finished his education. Said, get into your career. Get deep into your career. You plan on buying a home? Get a home. Okay? Get on the path. Do what you need to do. Don't get into financial debt. That's another thing. You get two people who don't have any financial education or not on their career path, and they just make the situation work. Okay? Worse. That's what I meant to say. They make the situation worse. You get two broken people. Okay? When we come to take a wife, we do have to bring something. As men, we have to bring something to the table. Okay? That's our financial leadership. The headship in the home, the spiritual leaders, the stuff like that. A woman should be getting a real man. And she should not accept anything less. But no, a guy should not have the audacity to go to a woman half-cocked, have no plan, dirt poor. It's like, you have to tell her, look, you got to get yourself together. Because you are charged with being a provider. Again, some of the other folks on the panel has already provided all the scripture, but, just to echo some of the things that they said, a man doesn't provide for his own home is worse than an infidel. So you do have to provide for your own home. I would not want my daughter, okay, to marry a man who could not provide for her. So we have to instill that into the young man. We have to, as men, we have to be that example too. We have to be that example to our sons, because everything starts at home. We have to be that example to our sons. We have to be that example to our daughters, and we have to instill those core values into our kids. And we have to, and the other problem is in our nation is that there is no accountability. There's no accountability. We're not accountable to anyone. Okay? There's no council of elders or anything like that. We don't have that tribe mindset. Okay? We're all fractured. We all do our thing, different things. We all do our own things. We're island unto ourselves. And I don't think we should be. We should be building and edifying one another and setting that example. There should be a council of men that are saying, hey, you know what, son? You're not ready. You don't have a home. You're barely struggling. A guy living in his mother's basement should not and ought not have a wife. It's that simple. A man should not take a young bride, a young woman, I should say, a young woman from her parents' home if he's not prepared to put her in another home. Period. She's supposed to be a helpmeet, not the one who provides everything, and the man sits around and do nothing. That's out of order, and we're not playing our role as a spiritual leader, the financial leader, the backbone of the relationship. And with that, I'll turn the mic over.
Whoa, Brother Robert, sorry we missed you, but you came back with some fire. You came back with some real good conversations, some real good advice and points that you followed up the conversation with. So definitely thank you for that. It's funny that you mentioned that, and then I'm going to come around. If you're in the audience right now, whoa, 9:29. All right, cool, check it out. If you're in the audience right now and you have something that you would like to add to the conversation, I actually see some hands up, so if it's okay, after this I'm going to touch on the audience members and see what it is that they have to say. But it's funny that you mentioned it. I love doing research. So just yesterday I was watching a documentary on these Mormons. A lot of people love talking about polygamy and multiple wives. So these are some people who's been doing it for some time in this country. And this young man, he was a young man. He finished school, but he didn't have an occupation. He wouldn't listen to his father. And so basically he wanted to marry this woman, and he went to a young girl, and he went to the Council of Elders. And the Council of Elders told him, hey, this is real talk. He said, hey, you don't have no money. And so his father, he comes out of the council, and his father says, what did they say? They said, I need to go earn at least $10,000 before I even could take her to be my wife. So this conversation that we're having is not one of color lines or say if you're in a different culture. It's one of common sense. It's one that says that if we're going to if one is going to take on another responsibility to provide, it makes sense to have something that you're going to be able to give them. And so I want to just thank you for that, because as you were talking, that's what it reminded me of. But right now I see some hands in the air, so I'm going to go to 347-465. 347-465. Your mic is unmuted. And hold on. 347-465. Okay, 347-465. I don't hear you at this point. What about 586-277? 586.
Hello.
Okay, wait,
Hello?
hold on. Is this 347?
Yes. I was talking, but I didn't hear anything.
Okay, I couldn't hear you. Go ahead. The mic is open.
Oh, yes. This is very brief. My name is Brother Malak. I have a Facebook page called Israelite Marriage and Family. I basically show about marriage. I have a YouTube page called 12 Tribes United. And basically I'm listening to everything, about marriage and about different things about marriage. And I'm going to say this, that if Exodus 21:10 says what it says, now we know this is debatable because some brothers and sisters will say Exodus 21:10 is speaking of slaves, Hebrew slaves, and it's speaking of more than one wife, but the concept I still take. If a man's supposed to be able to provide food and raiment. Now, if a man is not able to provide food and raiment for himself, and shelter for himself, to move on to a wife and to protect his children, I don't believe that he should do so. Some brothers may argue that if she has a job just like him, but we all know that until not too long ago, that wasn't the case. That was not the case. And I believe through the scriptures that I read, and that the way that I view things, I'm not the Most High, but at the same time, a man to have a wife, I believe he should be able to show.
Brother 347, are you still? His mic, oh, let me go ahead and see here. If his phone dropped, looks like his call dropped. We'll wait for him to come back in. He'll definitely be able to come into the conversation. If you have something to say at this time, feel free to press *5* on your keypad, and it will get you into the conversation.
Hello? Hello?
I'm here. I don't hear Emunah. Can you hear me?
I don't hear you anymore. Yeah, I can hear you. Thank you for answering.
Okay.
Did our call drop off? Is there anyone else on the line that could check it?
Mic check on anybody else?
The host has
Anybody
joined the conference.
Okay, so her call dropped off. I'll wait.
Sorry about that. The call was acting up. Go ahead. The mic is yours.
Hey, Emunah, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am awesome. This is Ahwar. Grace and peace to everyone on the panel.
Peace to you as well, sister. Your thoughts on the conversation. Feel free. The mic is open.
Thank you. I don't know if I'm pronouncing the brother's name right, but I think it was Ahmathyahs.
Ahmathyahs.
Ahmathyahs. Awesome. Yeah, he had a whole lot of good things to say. I appreciate all the scriptures that everyone has brought. I agree that this has nothing to do with potential. A better word that I would like to use is willingness. Potential is one thing. A whole lot of people could have potential, but do they have a willingness to use what they have is one thing that I was thinking. Like Brother Robert said, in marriage, we should add to one another, and we're there to build one another up. I may have some strengths that my husband doesn't have, and he may have some strengths that I don't have. So, we are to bear the infirmities of one another. I think that that's very prevalent. To answer your question, I guess the question was, can a man have a wife and not be able to provide for her? Pretty much is, I agree, like Robert said, yes, the man can, but should a man have a wife and not be able to provide? No, he shouldn't, because it's only going to cause chaos in a marriage. I think Brother Robert was speaking of, sisters, what women shouldn't accept concerning, men that are not able to provide. But, one thing that I realized dealing with the Hebrew community is you have a lot of manipulation, you have deception, and you have lies that are going forth. And, I just feel like a lot of our sisters are tricked into marriage. These brothers come and they smooth talking and they know the book, and most of them are, self-proclaimed teachers and, things of that nature. So I think that a lot of sisters are tricked into getting marriage because, even though the brother may not be doing it at that time, what happens is these sisters see that ugly word that I don't like, potential, instead of seeing a willingness, because a willingness would go ahead and get it started before you even marry that woman. But potential within that man would go ahead and marry that woman and then sit around and not do anything and leave everything on her. The other thing that I wanted to say, and I'll try and keep this as short as possible, but this is a really good topic for me. The other thing that I wanted to say is we have to remember when we're talking about Adam and Jacob, we're talking about before the curses. Right now, we are under the curse, and there was a scripture
that I wanted to bring up. I have 2 places that I wanted to go, if that's okay. And the first one is Genesis 1:26, where God says, and God said, let us make man in our own image, after our own likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. And verse 27, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. And God blessed them. And God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. So even though Eve was beguiled, Adam had dominion over her, and he didn't use that dominion that he had over her. Instead, he listened to her. And that's what brings me to the next verse that I wanted to bring out, that a lot of brothers do not like to hear, but this is the fact of the matter. This is the day and age that we're living in, and it's prophecy, and it's been spoken. This is Isaiah 3:12. It says, as for my people, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them. O my people, they which lead thee, cause thee to err, and destroy the way of thy path. And in finishing, I just wanted to say that we look to our men to do better, to show us the way. Most of the time, within a household, for most of the brothers, well, I'll say a great majority of the brothers out here that are within our community, they're unable to get the good jobs because, they have a past and different things of that nature. So most of the times, I'm not going to say all the time, but women pretty much bring home a majority of the money because most of the brothers cannot get jobs. And that goes along with something that someone else was saying. But that still is no excuse. You can't just sit around and think that you're going to preach or teach the word of God and you're not taking care of your household. Because first and foremost, the Lord said that before you can do anything for him, you need to be able to maintain your household as far as being a bishop or a teacher or anything of that nature. Before you go out here going forth with my word, if your household is not in order, then there is going to be chaos. And I do apologize. There was one more that I wanted to say, but I'll let it go because I lost my frame of thought. But I thank you guys for allowing me to speak. Grace and peace.
Wow, that was good, Sister Ahwar. Thank you so much for your thoughts on the subject. Very interesting thoughts because you brought up something, as they would say in the Caribbean, that might touch somebody's corn, which is this thought that you brought up a few good things, and it's the thought that the men are saying, they could be on the YouTube, the blog talk, the Facebook, whatever, and say that now this is their job. And now the woman is supposed to go out there, buy the books off of Amazon and do all of these things because he's doing the Most High's work. And so now she's physically going out there and working. Very interesting because it's also something that's causing real-time issues in the nation. So thank you so much for chiming in and for bringing that up. Does anyone at this time have anything else to say? Feel free to press *5*, and you can have your voice be heard. At this point, I don't see any more hands up. So we're going to go up. Brother Chaviv, I was coming right back to you. I know he's probably over there stirring up and I have some things to say. We're going to come back to Brother Chaviv and go around on the panel so that we could continue to discuss some of the things that we've heard. Again, if you're out there and you're listening, press *5*, and your voice can and will be heard. 1 second. All right, Brother Chaviv, your mic is open.
Yes. Now, let me reiterate on a very pertinent word that has been expounded on a bit. And I think, if I'm understanding correctly, I introduced this word into the forum, which has been taken to some, expound and to some taken out of the introductory context upon which I introduced it. Now, we talk about potential. Now, there's a terminology or phrase that says, well done is better than well said. Now, in today's corporate society upon which we exist, when a young man or a young woman, anyone as such, leaves school and pursue a future career in a well-established company, they are normally go through a process of interviewed and, show their credentials upon which they obtain through academic procedure. And based on the curriculum's achievement, it will determine if they are qualified for such a job. Now, that's the potential. Now, without the execution, which brother, I think Michael uses, some feedback in his word, without the execution and the determination, nothing will be accomplished. So we first have to realize that the brother or the man or the husband or the suitor has to, if he comes in with a desire to love this potential bride with all intent and all art and everything that's good, and he is being evaluated and the potential is being seen, then that potential has to be put to execution. And that's where we piggyback or reiterate on Jacob's situation, which is highly, used to illustrate this topic of interest. Because when Jacob went to his uncle Laban, one of the primary factors was that he was a bloodline, a next of kin, which was the custom then, as is today in most of the Asiatic world. So that in itself was a potential. In other words, he was qualified for. But being qualified for doesn't necessarily mean that he will fulfill. So it's upon execution of the doings that will generate now the income that will determine the completion of the action if he is qualified. Because if a man comes to me and desires my daughter, and this man has a skill, that a trade or a skill that I could use to enhance my establishment, and at his point of arrival, he has nothing, but he has shown deep interest in my daughter, and my daughter has shown me a likeness for him also. Then based on my evaluation of this young man, his parents, his history, his background, and I approve of his qualities, then it's up to me to mold him into. Now, while molding him, if during that process he has shown a lack of ability and failed to execute his desire to the fullness of my satisfaction, then that's where I'm going to make a determination as to whether I will grant or grant not. So I don't want the panel as well as the audience to take their potential word to think that it's sufficient. No. So I'm in agreement with what Sister Mayanah says, that potential in itself is insufficient, but potential in itself is a start. Because without having that potential, it's hard to establish any establishment, because you have to have a potential to build a house. You have a plan and start before the house can be completed. So potential in my context is actually initiative, but when you put it into execution or exercise and it comes to fruition, then that's when and where one or other father can determine, okay, he has fulfilled my requirement and I'm satisfied with what he has done. He has now proven that he's qualified and thus he can get my daughter. Such was the case of Jacob, because again, Jacob went with nothing, but he came up with a lot. So the topic at large has to be evaluated holistically. We have to dissect it and look at it in all different sectors and factors before we can make a strong determination. And I also want to piggyback on the fact that if a man can't take care of his house, he's just an infidel, therefore he's unqualified. But my question towards that is, at what point will we know if he is or is he not? Because again, like the sister just came and said, there's a lot of smooth talker who comes into the congregation. In other words, the enemy himself, with Job, presents himself when the sons of God were called. So amongst us, as the children of God, there are good and there are bad. And there are those who will come under pretense. And not knowing the fullness of this man, a father can say, that man looked like that man has something because he made Job drive a nice car and so forth. So the father started thinking with the carnality of the visuality accept this man as a qualified man for his daughter, not knowing the fullness of what this man is or will be. So when this daughter is given over to this man and the fullness of this man's character is being displayed, then what? And then with that, I turn the mic over.
Very, very interesting. Thank you. That's Brother Chaviv. This conversation is developing. I pray that those who are listening to it and will continue to listen to it will take some of these things into consideration, meditate. I pray, beseech the Most High, because in these small matters that are seemingly small, when we make errors in these places, we go forward and it becomes a bigger mess. And so where does potential end and actuality begin? Can we go and step out on potential only? Whose responsibility is it? All of these questions, the panelists are posing some very important statements as well as warnings, to the listening public. Society has made it where if someone was to do what Brother Ahmathyahs said concerning asking the man of his financial standing, they have termed that being a gold digger. Now, is there a difference between making sure that the individual is qualified so that the two of you guys are not balling for hungry at night? Is there a difference between that and being a gold digger? Because in this space and time, again, that is the perception if one wants to understand or figure out if you are able to not only take care of her, but take care of those who may come as a result of you guys' union. So very, very important stuff. I do see Brother Ahmathyahs' hand in the air. Once again, if you're listening and you have any questions or comments, feel free to press *5*. I saw a private number with their hand in the air. They put it back down. So if you'd like to come to the mic at this time, feel free to do so. Before I go to Brother Ahmathyahs, let me see. Sister Mayanah did a poll. It was overwhelmingly, usually the polls, they're not so overwhelmingly on one side. But all with the exception of one, I believe, everyone was of the consensus that the man should be able to provide for his household. So it's almost logical, but then again, we're having a lot of questions. We're having a lot of, social media outbursts, and this is one of the very forerunners, which is the man is not doing nothing, he's not providing, and this is what is causing contention in the household. So I'm going to come to Brother Ahmathyahs while we see if we have any more questions or comments. So, Brother Ahmathyahs, the mic is yours.
All right, thank you. I think you raised a good question. He asked, in essence, when would we know, or when should it be deemed worthy that this man has enough to take care of the woman? And basically, I would say that goes by on a case-by-case basis. That would depend on her individual needs, because not all women are the same. You may meet a woman, for example, a man may meet a woman who has kids already. All right? Obviously, if she's coming in with a child into the relationship, her individual needs will not be the same as a woman who does not have a child. Maybe you're meeting a woman who is the sole provider for an elderly parent. There are certain things that you just have to take into consideration depending upon a case-by-case basis. So the same way how the brother earlier, I don't remember his name, but he said that, or he alluded to the idea that each situation is different. He's absolutely correct. The woman has to be able to assess her needs, okay, know what she would need to be adequately provide for, okay. We're not saying that the guy necessarily has to provide a $6 million home, but the point is, you within yourself, ladies, know the difference between from not having nothing to having something where you can live and your needs are met. And the man should be faced with that and be able to look down at his own budget, at his own books, and see if he can financially provide for this woman and her individual needs. And if he cannot, well then, he can definitely go out there and make a way so that he can, so that her needs are not struggling. So that most definitely goes on a case-by-case basis. In addition to that, like I said before, men are not shy in asking the women for their qualifications, whether or not she can cook, clean, do, etc. all right? Even taking it to a personal level where, if a man has his personal likes and dislikes, to see if she can meet that bar, if she can fulfill that. Well, there's absolutely no reason why a woman can't do the same, okay? I think we do, a lot of times we as men do misclassify women as being gold diggers when they are simply doing their due diligence and their homework, and I believe that both parties should be grown up enough and responsible enough to be able to sit together at dinner or at a convenient setting that they're choosing to have this discussion and to know, even coming into the discussion, to know what it's about. That way, both parties can have their guards down somewhat and be able to anticipate certain questions, all right, and know that they are going to have to be able to provide an adequate response to the person who's asking. So if I already know that this woman is somebody who I want to be with, and we make a decision to talk about our finances, which is something that we all should talk about going into a relationship, I should not find it offensive, nor should my ego be challenged or my manhood hurt if she asks me certain questions about my financial strength. If she asks me about my credit score, if she comes to me with her needs and see if I can provide, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And in addition to that, I also believe that men should, and we by nature, take a certain pride. And we're proud of ourselves when our woman is able to come to us with a need. We are able to fulfill that need and to show her that she doesn't have to worry, that she looks at us other than underneath the Most High as someone that she can and should come to first. Because men at times, will or can find it somewhat insulting if they find out that their woman has a need and that woman didn't come to them first to provide for that need, ladies. All right? So if that's the case, then men should not be insulted. Egos should not be bruised. If the woman is doing her due diligence and coming to see if whether or not from the beginning of the relationship, when you guys decide to take that next step, I'm not even saying that you should talk about finances necessarily on the first date or however have you, but it's definitely a subject that should be talked about, all right, on both parts seeing what they can bring to the table financially, both parts being able to assess their individual needs and seeing if they can come together as a unit to make it work. And then from there, to make it grow, all right? Because financial struggles can put a unnecessary burden upon the relationship that you just don't need. So prior to getting into any of that, then you should just have that talk. And if you don't have the means, then it's quite possible that the woman that you're courting can give you some good advice as to how to go out and to get the means. A lot of brothers, in my experience, too many, have a fear of going back to school and literally going out there and getting an education, getting a degree, when it's in their means to do so. Again, I understand that every man's situation is different. So one man's ability may not be the next man, but for those of us who are able, why not go back to school? Why not seek higher education, so that you can provide? Why not seek out a professional trade or think about being entrepreneur minded so that you can provide for this woman, so that she can live comfortably and so that she can be free to express herself in her own God-given role as burden-free as possible. So to answer the man's question once again, that just simply depends upon the woman's and the man's individual needs, their individual circumstances and situations, and then being grown up enough to even realize that, you know what, this is more than I can chew at the time, so therefore I better not take a bite, and being responsible and grown up enough to say, I can't do this right now, so let me step off, better myself, and then hopefully I can come back and get a second bite at the apple. And to that, I give the floor. Thank you.
Wow. Some real good counsel today. Thank you. That was the voice of Brother Ahmathyahs. Very good counsel. Some things that, like you said, require some level of maturity and honesty with oneself and each other so that we can kind of avoid some of these mistakes that are almost inevitable, especially when you look about divorce rates and you look about reasons as to why people separate and things that cause stress. Finances is at the very top, and it's not saying that, and I'm going to come to Brother Ahwar. He's been very quiet. Sorry, Brother Ahwar, the panel is so expansive today, I kind of missed you on a go-round, so I'm going to come back to you, Brother Ahwar, and as we're, 10 o'clock, we're going to come back to everybody and see if we can get some wrap-up final statements. But I just said that. I see Brother Mercy with his hand in the air. So I'm going to come to Brother Ahwar, and hopefully the thought will come back to me, and then I'll come to Mercy. So, Ahwar, are you there? Your thoughts so far on what you've heard? Any final statements that you'd like to know? Feel free to let us know at this time. Oh, sorry, wait. 404, Brother Ahwar, are you there?
Yeah, you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Come, She, go ahead.
Good. Yeah, this topic also had to be discussed in the many different facets of the nation. Okay, and what I mean by that, you have captivity, which is Baruch 3:8. Hear Israel. It says, this is Baruch 3:8. Behold, we are yet this day in our captivity, but thou hast scattered us for a reproach and a curse. And in captivity, this consists, Jeremiah 3:22, right? It says, how long wilt thou go about, O thou backsliding daughter? For the Lord hath created a new thing in the earth. A woman shall compass a man. The reason why I brought that up, like the sister brought out the scripture earlier, and you have that now in this society, like when America had that financial breakdown, a lot of people was going back working at McDonald's and being on French fries and stuff. So two people in the household had to hold it down. And in these latter days, that can happen any time, okay, where the financial structure of this society can collapse, okay? And then there's women that are in power on these jobs that make a lot more money than men. And I've seen shows where white women, what they do, they make so much money more than the men. They tell the men, you stay home and take care of the children, and I'll go and hold it down. And they don't have a problem with that, okay? And I want to go another one. The next one is nation transitioning. There's a scripture that it tells us that it's going to come a time. Let me read it. This is Ecclesiastes 10 right here. And what I'm saying is there's many various facets that we need to discuss, because we're all discussing it from a perspective of being in this society the way the Gentiles and the nations are living. We're discussing it from that standpoint. But let's discuss this same conversation from the aspect of captivity, nation transition, sovereignty, when you're a government, okay? There's a time here where there's going to be so much chaos on the earth that, like it says, the virgins are going to look for a husband and they're not going to find them. Then you go to Isaiah 4:1 where it says, 7 women shall take hold of one man. See, there's a various conversation with this. It's not just, we can't just see it one side. Let me read this. This is Ecclesiastes, King James Apocrypha 10 verse 8. It says, because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. So this can happen any time. Where this society can collapse and it start getting transition, it becomes transition to us or the next people. And then Israel, the people, they're prophesied to be wealthy again, rich, all of us. Our prophecy, we're going to be wealthy and rich. So we'll have the money to have the women. I just wanted to put that on the board. I ain't going to hold it up, but I just wanted to put that out there, and I pass the mic.
That's something to think about. Brother Ahwar just brought up captivity. Thank you so much for that, Brother Ahwar. Exile and the fact that we're dispersed. Again, I think Sister Mayanah, I'm going to come to you, Sister Mayanah. I had called out Brother Mercy, so I'm going to touch Brother Mercy first and come to you. I think Mayanah had brought that conversation out, and Brother Ahmathyah, because it's funny how captivity, and not you particularly, Brother Awar, but captivity, exile, our condition is brought out in some spaces, but not others. And it's kind of like, and I was having this conversation before, we kind of have to come to the table and kind of choose, because at this point it's like, okay, it applies only to here because this part is hard for me, but it don't apply over here, so I'm going to enforce it. And just weights and balances, and I believe it was said earlier, just weights and balances is the most I delight, and an unjust weight is an abomination. And so as we're, like you said, this conversation is rounding up, we have to take a look at all of those things, the responsibilities that are asked of these women in this time, men who are accumulating all throughout the nation, and the responsibilities that's laid on them, plus their original responsibility. So the question is, how do we return? Are we able to return on the backs of women? And that's the picture that Mayanah had for the promotion. On the backs of women, literally, is how this return is happening. Is that how it's supposed to happen? What are we saying towards that? And is the fact that we are here reflecting of what the men have done and continue to do? Because the responsibility of a lot of what is happening, as we keep hearing over and over, there is something going on with our men in the nation, and we have to be honest. That the fact that we are in this position to the degree that we are, and having to go into these spaces is because there are still things that we are doing wrong. I said I was going. I see Brother Robert with his hand in the air. I have to come to this conversation is popping. I see. I have to come to Bro.Mercy because I said out his name, and then I'm gonna come to Sister Mayanah, Brother Robert, and then I'm gonna come to 586 with your hand in the air, in that order. Bro.Mercy, the mic is yours.
Well, what I wanted to talk about is the importance of the beginning. And we look at the beginning, the Lord planted the garden. And see, this is the part that we're not discussing. See, you're working somewhere and you don't know how that company got started. That's number one. Okay? I work at a school. The founding fathers of the school, it's going to sound crazy, the founding fathers of the school I work at visit the school. And the kids get to meet the founding fathers and what their vision was for the school, but yet and still they see all of that and they still walk around the school with the pants hanging. See, that's what I don't understand. You see the founding fathers and their vision, and they come meet you and they explain to you how this school got started, this black school got started. But yet and still you hear all this and you see all of this, but yet you still go the opposite direction. The problem is you can't start a school if you don't graduate from school. I'm going to throw out the stats for you. 50% inner city kids drop out of school before getting a high school diploma. Let me just go ahead and give you the stats. 50%. Half of the kids don't have a high school diploma. That had nothing to do with your race. A lot of jobs today require a high school diploma. That's just what it is. I mean, if you can't read and write, no, you can't do my accounting at my company. You can't do it. You got to be able to read and write. You got to be able to read and write and do certain things. So I say this, and we can put this on the women, put this on the men, but the point is, the larger problem is we don't know. We're in a garden, and we don't even know how it got planted. And that's the problem with Adam. He didn't plant the garden, so he didn't know that it took work to plant a garden. And y'all brothers talking, and I'm not talking about y'all brothers here, but I talk to brothers all the time, and brothers like, yeah, Adam had it made. He was living in paradise. But I said, but he wasn't with the Lord when he planted that garden. He wasn't watching him while he was planting and seeing the hard work he did so that when he get kicked out of the garden, what he had to do to plant his own garden. And see, we got to plant our own garden. And a lot of brothers say they going to get a job somewhere. No, sometimes the jobs ain't there. Sometimes you got to create your own garden. You can't just, in this racist society, you can't just depend on a job to be there. And this school got started. Why that black school get started? Because the whites didn't let us go to school. So they came up with their own school. I mean, that's the idea. They didn't sit around and say, of course we had integration later on, but before integration came about, black people said, you know what, they ain't going to let us in schools, we'll come out our own schools. So that's the vision and the spirit of our ancestors. And I don't see that. I don't see that today. I don't see that spirit today, living today. I see it in some, but I don't see it in all. And I just wanted to say that you have to know how things get started. And I think that's what's missing. They think this gets started by a rapper or by wearing $200 or $300 sneakers. That's no problem. When you talking about vision, but our kids are wearing $200, $300. Kids in my school live in the ghetto, and they wearing $200 to $300 sneakers. So they got a little. I don't know how they get there. I tell them all the time, I say, I don't know what kind of vision you got. But you wear more expensive shoes than me, and I work every day. So that's the problem. So you definitely got no work ethic because you done learned already. I get this stuff without working for you. You follow what I'm saying? They're getting things without working for them. So that sends a wrong message. So then they end up in jail because the only place you get stuff for free is in jail. Because out here, you got to work for what you get for. And I just wanted to say that I don't think we're teaching our kids the right message. I don't think we are letting them know that it takes hard work, because the Bible says all hard work brings reward. I don't think they know it takes hard work. They listen to some rapper that made it. Some rappers have made it. They made it. And they think they're going to live like that rapper, and they're not. They think stuff comes fast and easy. And that's what I see going on. Maybe y'all don't see that, but I see we got people who think stuff goes fast and easy, and they don't want to be patient like Jacob and work for what they got. And be patient. And I don't see that a lot. Maybe you see it, but I don't see it a whole lot. And I think that's the problem, because I think we don't understand how things got started and how things blossom, how things grow. We don't understand that what a flower needs for its nourishment, and we don't understand what all those things. And I think that's a part of being a man and understand those things. And that's all I have to say, because I know we have running out of time. But that's it.
Thank you for that. That was the voice of Bro.Mercy. He said something very important, that we're disconnected from the process. That's what I heard him saying, that the youth, the men, and the women are disconnected from the process. It's like somebody asked, I saw some crazy thing, and they're like, Mommy, where does mashed potatoes come from? Like, where does bread come from? You're disconnected from the process. You don't know it comes from wheat because you don't grow wheat. You don't grind wheat. You understand? We're disconnected. We eat so much flesh. Why? Because we're disconnected from animal husbandry. You didn't raise it up, so you don't have a problem with going in there and eating it every day. You understand? And so this is what I'm hearing based on where we are. We have gotten to the space where we are allowing ourselves to think that it's that easy. In actuality, it takes more than that. So I want to thank you for that, Bro.Mercy. I'm going to come to Sister Mayanah. Like I said, I want to thank everybody, and I'll apologize. There's a lot of people on the panel today, so usually when it's this much, we kind of, we have to try to make our way around. So, again, if you're in the audience and you have any questions or comments, press star, 5-star. I'm going to come to Sister Mayanah, Brother Robert, and then 5-8. So, Sister Mayanah, the mic is yours. Wait, before the mic is hers, maybe I should unmute it. There you go, Sister Mayanah. The mic is yours.
You forgot about me. Well, first of all, I want to thank Brother Reed and Brother Ahmathyahs for their insight. I was so pleased. I almost hung up because you guys held it down so well. But there's a couple of things that I do think is important to clarify, because among all the really great points, there were a couple of things that need to be kind of fleshed out. First, I would like to address something that Bro.Mercy said, not this time, but the time before, when he said that stability is subjective. Stability is not subjective. Even in his example, he stated that if someone has a particular income but lives beyond that income, then this is out of balance. So that tells you there that stability has to do with balance. Stability is not subjective. Wealth is subjective, beauty is subjective, but being stable is being stable. Either you're stable or you're unstable. So I think that needs to be addressed. In order to disagree with me, you would have to address my point. And what I clearly and consistently said was not that it was an issue of money, but rather that there should be an environment that is stable. That when you, and Ahmathyahs already fleshed this out, so I don't have to repeat it, but just to recapitulate briefly, what the point was, that if you bring a woman out of one home, you necessarily have to bring her into another home, not into a hole or into a holding pattern. Brother I still am not comfortable saying anything. I really do not want to disrespect it. But the other brother who, I'm sorry?
Chaviv?
Okay. Yes.
All right.
Chaviv. Brother Chaviv brilliantly came back and clarified his point of potential, and I'm very appreciative that he took the time to do that, because his explanation was very clear and very concise, and lends itself to coming to a more fruitful conclusion about what we mean in this. The other part of clarification, because in hearing it being repeated so many times, I feel that I have to stop this recycling of misquoting today's topic. Today's topic is not, can a man without livelihood get a wife? The topic is, are men without livelihood entitled to a wife? It is not whether or not they have the physical capacity of achieving the goal, or whether or not they have the ability of maintaining this goal, but whether or not they are entitled to having a wife. I wanted to read from the actual poll question, because in the poll question, like I said, I took deliberate effort to be very clear about what the intention behind the question is. And the poll question that everyone answered, that Emunah revealed that the conclusion was the popular answer at 26 respondents was no. It is the basics for a man to be able to provide for the home he desires. Only one person said yes, believing in the truth alone is good enough. The question they responded to was, are men without livelihood, parenthetically explained, able to make meaningful contributions to the stability of the home he desires, in parentheses, entitled to a wife? So the language used here to explain stability was able to make meaningful contributions to the stability of the home he desires. The reason I wanted to bring that to your attention is that someone else made the statement that stability doesn't always have to come in the flat. It might have been a war. In the form of coming to the table with a pocket full of money, but instead is capable of tending to the home, doing the domestic the tasks that are usually relegated to the domestic sphere, like cooking and cleaning and tending to the children, while the woman has gone out and earned money. Now that is still contributing, it's still a meaningful contribution to the home. It is, we talked before about what his skill might be. If he can cook, the potential or the ability to execute that skill, a professional chef can bring home quite a bit of money. Not eating out because someone in the house is cooking saves money. It's contributing to the stability of the house. We don't eat out. The way we manage our food, that the husband is good at growing things in the yard or in the house to make herbs and spices, that is a meaningful contribution to the stability of the home. If he is sitting around playing Xbox, not a meaningful contribution to the stability of the home. If he is, because she is at work, he is sitting there with the children, doing homework with children, assisting with their education, attending sporting events, making sure that all the children have their emotional needs are being met, that he is actively involved in that way. While she's earning money, she's not doing double duty. We talked before about asking the woman to do double duty. So when we talk about meaningful contributions to the home, that's, again, after the fact, because you don't really want to go and say, well, since you have this great job, I'll stay home and watch the potential children that we don't have. In my original scenario that I presented, which is why I was so curious how Bro.Mercy came to a totally different conclusion, I stated that If a man only has the ability to take care of the wife, together they will decide that when we have more, we will have children. When we have more, we will add other burdens. But right now, this is what we can afford. That also maintains stability. At no point have I emphasized money. At no point has anyone else. No, that's not true. At no point have I emphasized money and made this about there being some grand financial stepping stone or milestone that a man must achieve before he enters into a union. Another thing, there was the female caller that called in made a lot of really good points, and she repeated a lot of really good points. There was something that I found a little problematic only because there was an addition to the verse. She spoke about Genesis, the first chapter, and all of the expectations of the father at that moment. And he says the male and female may see them, and that they, both the male and female, were given dominion over the air, sea, and land. It is incorrect, and I found in Scripture that anyone would give, if you notice, they're given dominion over everything except each other. So it was a false conclusion that in Genesis 1, during in the 20s, that at that point, the masculine principle was afforded dominion over the feminine principle. That doesn't exist in that portion. The dominion where the man is ruling over her does not happen until 3, where there is a remedy after they have created a sin, where the fall has happened. In Genesis 1, this is not an issue. This is not happening, and it's not brought up at all. It's something that gets very firmly established in the 3rd chapter, because we know for a fact that in the 1st chapter, there is no division of the masculine and feminine principle, because 5 and 2 says male and female. He named them both Adam. Adam was at one point both of the masculine and feminine principle together. Male and female created he them, and he called them Adam. So the dominion part in the beginning, where they had shared dominion over everything except each other. That is not to say that it's not the case now. It is very much the case now that a woman is put in a position of vulnerability and submission to her husband, which is all the more reason that there is an expectation that he is going to have the ability to sustain her and maintain her. Now, I would also say that there much ado is being made about Jacob. Much ado is being made about Jacob because that's the example that was given. A question was asked, and I believe it was Brother Reed that asked it. So what we do is there's this idea of there should be provision, but we can't. Oh, no, I think it might have been the brother whose name I'm still be very cautious of. Chaviv? Is that correct? Did I do that okay?
Yeah, Brother
Chaviv.
Chaviv.
So proud of him. Okay, I believe
I'm saying it wrong. Tell her your name, brother.
It's Chaviv, pronounced K-A-V-I-V. V-I-V-A is feminine. That's Chaviv, as in V-I-V. I know, because you're a female and you have that nature. Don't worry about it. I get it all the time.
Okay, we're going to come to Brother Chaviv over there in a minute. I know he probably have a few things to say as we wrap up.
Okay. Well, with that, brother, he posed the question, so what do we do if upon observation we see that, yes, he has a great vehicle, I'm not sure which other brothers did it, but he has a great vehicle, and that externally or ostensibly it appears that he is someone who may be able to do these things. How do we make these determinations? Not looking at it. Although Jacob is a fair example, we go back to it. I believe Brother Reed said that we have to go back to what we did in antiquity. If we are going to use our traditional culture to be the compass for where we want to go now, then what we find traditionally that we did was that the male he gave shows of his ability, with the instance of Isaac. moving away from Abraham and Jacob and going somewhere in the middle with Isaac. We see that Abraham sits ahead of him by means of his servant to his prospective bride, whomever that would be. It winds up being Rebecca. That family received many gifts, and those gifts were to demonstrate Abraham's family's ability to provide for this woman. So by being able to send articles, cloth and jewels and all of these other shows of wealth, it gave that family reasonable assurances that if they gave their daughter to go with the servant to this new house, that this is a household that had some type of means to support her. So the question is, like for example, Ahmathyah gave the example that if a couple is serious about going into a union together, taking that next step, the serious and honest conversations need to take place. What kind of job do you currently have? Is that going to make a value judgment on him as a man? Absolutely not. Instead, it's saying, okay, I like a lot of this conversation is about love, since we're not talking about families marrying, but individuals marrying. Okay, so I love you. I understand that right now all you have, all that we can do is this. So I will make the assessment that I'm okay with living in an apartment in not the best neighborhood right now to be with you. I understand your limitations. And once that honest conversation is there and the decision is being made to say, okay, I accept that, then that's different than being fed a dream that isn't going to happen, or because the man isn't being honest about things. And Brother Reed makes a very good and very important point, and I'm appreciative that he made it, and he could have made it with much more confidence because he's absolutely correct. The women bear responsibility and accountability as well. The men continue to do certain things because we accept it. We allow it. We have failed them. And I'm going to say this again, and I'm going to say it very slowly so that it's heard and understood. We fail them when we don't have expectations of them. When we do that, in many ways we are telling them that we have given up on them. We don't believe in their abilities, because where they are now is as far as we expect them to go. It's okay that they are subpar and underachieving, and we understand, we believe that about them, because we're not setting any standards. When we were created, when woman was given to man, it was given to man under this is a phrase and not a noun. Help meet just doesn't exist. It is a phrase. It says, I will create a help meet for him. There are two words in there that are very important, help and meet. These are not a compound word. This is very separate. They both have individual meanings. Meet is a British word from the 15th century that means worthy, suitable, appropriate, and fit. And it was implemented to describe the Hebrew word that was there, which is neged, which means opposite or a reflection of. Your job is to reflect back to him. That is your job. You are created to be a help. The Hebrew word there is Esau, which means to save or to rescue, and you are doing none of that by sitting back and saying, and enabling this type of underachievement. Bro.Mercy pointed out that 60% or whatever, he gave very impressive statistics about the dropout rate of our children. And then this argument that, okay, we are not succeeding in corporate spaces, we're not amassing the credentials to produce in corporate spaces. Our men drop out of school at a different rate than our daughters, which I'm sure Bro.Mercy, when he comes back, will attest to. That graduating classes, that it is the women that the girls send in the beginning, it's pretty even, but towards graduation, there are more girls than there are boys. And those girls go on to go to higher education, therefore their credentials are higher, therefore they achieve a different status in the corporate world. This is not because of altogether. It's not just because of captivity, which I think is amazing. As Sister Emunah alluded to, we talk about captivity as it is convenient. I was not aware that I was exempt from captivity. I'm pretty sure I went into captivity with you. So the men who are complaining about captivity as if the women are exempt from captivity and have not gone into captivity with you, have not gone into slavery with you, are not subjected to racism with you, are not subjected to different types of social abuses with you, it's a little disingenuous to do that. It's very disingenuous to do that. And it's because you continue to devalue where your women are and the fact that they are beside you that you are not getting the most from us as women. And because we as women think that it is in our fear of emasculating you, we have infantilized you. Instead of in our zeal to, or in our fear of emasculating, because we know that emasculation is making you feel like less than a man. We have infantilized you. The word is infant. We have treated you like babies, which also prevents you from being men. And we have to put it into that. And like Brother Reed said, we are accountable for that. We fail you every time we don't do that. And for now, I yield the floor.
Man, y'all taking it deep today. For those who just joined us, boy, we're going into the third hour. Let me take a look at this board here. Thank you for that, Sister Mayanah. Again, this topic is, there's some stuff we have to speak about. That is some ripple effect kind of a conversation that we're having here. Hold on, we got a message from Brother Sal. He been MIA trying to work on what's going on Blog Talk, but we holding it up at this moment. But like I said again, Sister Mayanah just brought up some very needed and very interesting points, and one of them that really just rang true to me, and I'm going to come to Brother Robert, then 586, and then Bro.Mercy, is that the men, when you say this, it's like she wasn't there too. I just have to reiterate that because I've heard that for the longest. There's a sister who always used to say it, like, we was right there too. You know, you was getting beat, she was getting beat too. You was in the field, she was in the field too. So now how is it that all of a sudden now you don't understand? How is it that she doesn't understand? Of course she understands. But like Mayanah is saying, there is something, and what I'm also saying, there is something that we keep skipping over. The fact that why it is even more difficult than it would usually be is because 9 times out of 10, something is off. We are behaving and acting in ways that are not pleasable and acceptable in the sight of the Most High. Henceforth, our life is even more difficult than it should be. So we can't skip over that. Everything is not the oppressor. The only oppressor only comes up against you when you're out of line. So if we're seeing it very difficult in this time, that means that a lot of people are out of line. And we can't and then blame us. See, it's the woman that you gave me most high. That's the problem right there. See, she got a job, I can't get one. Okay, what's going on with you? You understand what I'm saying? Like Mayanah is saying, and everybody on the panel, and thank everybody, because these are some hard conversations that we need to have. Because using one another as scapegoats, and boats too, right? And riding on people's backs to wherever you're trying to get to, and then once you get there, jump off and declare, I'm the man, that's problematic. You know, and so it is with the women, like Brother Robert said, and Brother Ahmathyahs said, allowing this and allowing ourselves to be goaded or bullied or manipulated or cajoled or deceived into thinking, you wicked Babylonian, I'm going to have to say, because these are the things that are being said. And one thing that was brought up was look at the book of Tobit. You understand? You know, she was out there, my sister Mayanah was hipping to me this earlier. Look at the book of Tobit. She was out there doing women's work. Okay, that conversation comes way after the fact that Tobit was already putting in work. And he became handicapped by muted bird dung in his eye. Like, he didn't just jump on the scene handicapped. That's a totally different conversation, and we do have to start parceling out some of these things and stop just wrapping it all. So you know how somebody in the laundry, you just take up all of the dirty clothes and just throw it in there. Next thing you know, your whites are pink, you know what I'm saying, and your stripes are green. That's a problem. And so we kind of have to sort this laundry to see what's what, and so that we can, you know, better take a look at and address these things. Once again, that's just Emunah's little 2 cents as I'm over here in the background. I'm going to go to Brother Robert, because last time he gave us something to go, like I said, and I'm going to come to 586. You can surely give me a name, 277, and I'm going to come to Bro.Mercy. We're coming to the 11 o'clock hour. I think this thing goes for like 4 hours. So we're going to wrap. We're going to wind down. So if you have any closing thoughts, put your hand in the air now so I can see you and come to you. But at this point, Brother Robert, the mic is yours.
Thank you, sister. Thank you. I appreciate the praise from the sister, and I don't want to sound like, I lack the courage of my convictions. I absolutely stand 100% behind some of all the things that I said. One being that the women shouldn't take a guy who's not ready. They shouldn't. You should not do that. You just do yourself a favor and you need to check this guy out. Check this guy to see if he's doing. See, the grave is full of people with potential. So we as men, we have to be doing, okay? But I did want to throw in another piece of scripture there, and I'm looking at, John 14, 2 and 3. It says, in my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. Verse 3. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there ye may be also. So if our Messiah, for the Messianics out there, so if our Messiah is to be our example, that's a perfect example of if a man is interested in a wife, if a man is interested, in bringing a woman home, guess what? He needs to go prepare a place to bring her to. Okay? We understand that we live in a day and age where, women are out in the workforce, and in some cases, the women make more money and stuff like that. But guess what? The principle doesn't change. We still need to go back to the old ways. I'm not saying that that calamity doesn't happen. A guy could be working when you meet him, and you could be going great for a couple of years, and then all of a sudden something happened, calamity strikes or whatever. Okay, and then the woman has to step up, but he needs to set the foundation as being men. Okay, so I completely believe in men being men, and the women don't accept anything less. Because we all know that men, when we want something, when we truly want something, we do everything we can, okay, from controlling or twisting or manipulating. That's on the dark side. But on the light side, he get on the ball. He start hustling. He start grinding. He start making it happen. Stop making excuses. We all understand we are in captivity. But can we not make money in this captivity? I understand we are in captivity. Can we not start businesses if need be? So we can't just use that as an excuse, well, I can't do this, or I got that, or whatever the excuse may be. If you are having that much trouble, then why exactly are you looking for a wife? See, a man shouldn't be looking for a wife to rescue him. He can look for a wife to help, but not provide, not lead, not set the foundation. And a lot of times we see, and I know we've all been kind of studying and looking at debates and reading, and we look around our society and everything. And a lot of times we've seen the men and women, both sexes, standing on the sidelines to see who's going to step up first. But I like what one of the sisters said, we're just sitting and watch, oh, it's the woman that you gave me and stuff like that. What is that picture telling us? That he should have stepped up. So who should go first? The men. That's the very nature of what a leader is. He steps up. He knows the way. He shows the way. He goes the way, as John Maxwell would say. So there's no need to even have a debate on who should step up and fulfill their role first. The men. Because we're talking about leadership, aren't we? We're talking about, a husband. We're talking about should a man of low means or no means, should be entitled to having a wife. Like I said in my statement, and I don't change it. Can he? Is he entitled to? Yes. Should he? No. And my only objection a little bit is with the word entitled. And the reason I say that is because and this is what I get. I'm not going to say what other people get from it, but when I hear entitled, it seems to imply that someone else has the power to grant me the ability to get married. That's why I don't like the word entitled. But my argument is the same. I still contend that, sure, any man could get power. You can be dirt poor, living under a bridge. You can get a wife, but you shouldn't. Because, being a man, being a husband, it's an action word. It's absolutely an action word. The proof of it is this. Sometimes, we can be in a married, committed relationship, and a husband can say to his wife, I love you. Right? He can say that all day, every day. Right? But at the same time, if he does not demonstrate it in action, does he really love her? If he says, okay, honey, I love you, but I'm not going to work. I love you, but I'm not going to provide anything. I love you, but I'm not going to lead you. I love you, but I'm not going to put food on the table. Do you guys see that if he just demonstrated that, he wouldn't even have to say I love you every day. It would show in his actions. So I know I'm getting more in the area of, what's a man, what's a husband, that sort of thing. But again, I'm really making the argument that if a man does not go as a Messiah and prepares a place and prepares himself, is he entitled to have a wife? Yes. Should he have a wife? Absolutely not. And with that, I rest.
All righty then. We have been hammering at this topic for almost 3 hours. I'm going to see. Thank you for that, Brother Robert. Like you said, things for us to go, think about. Because, again, this is causing major issues in the community. There are men, and I'm going to come to the last two hands in the AIC, and then we're going to wrap it up. There are men out here who expressly look for women who can provide while they collect the money from the women who are bringing in the money. And some go to the level of, if the women are on the system, they will take and exact the system's money collectively. So there's levels to this conversation, all in the name of, the Most High, all in the name of manhood, all in the name of Babylon, all in the name of captivity. A whole lot of conversation going on here. And what do we do off these lines? Hopefully the brothers and sisters who are listening, do we see someone like this? I know someone brought up elders and councils. If you see this type of individual, do we have the ability as a community, as an individual, as a brother, to step to your fellow brother and say, hey, what's going on? Where does it start? Do we need to speak to these children before they become men and their egos get to that point? Because this is another thing. The Most High said, be a father to the fatherless. If we were doing these things to those when they were young, even if they didn't have father, would we have to deal with them as men? These are all the things, the questions that come into my mind. What are the preventative measures? How can we fix this? What can we do to better it going forward? So we have 2 more hands in the air, and then we're going to kind of wrap it up if we don't have any more questions and comments. This is 586. Feel free, 586-277. Feel free to state your name, and the mic is yours.
Shalom. Once again, this is Sister Ahwar, and I just wanted to commend Bro.Mercy when he was speaking. I do agree that we are, as male and female, that we are both disconnected from the process. And also, I agree with Sister Mayanah. It was in the 3rd chapter, and it's kind of crazy because that's what I was going to read next, even before she stated what she was stating. So I'll go to Genesis 3:16, and it says, unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow, and in thy conception in sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. So, once again, that's what I was pretty much talking about, when we're dealing with Scripture and we're trying to bring all these things to the table as far as the Adam and the Jacob. We got to remember what was before the curses and what came after the curses. And to be under the curses still at this point within the Hebrew community, within our community, to be under the curses, I just feel like there is something that somebody is doing wrong, and it needs to be corrected. And a lot of times our brothers, they don't want to be corrected. They want to, think that us as women are judging them. No, it's not always judgment. Sometimes we're just trying to admonish you. We're just trying to bring you up a little bit higher, and we're just trying to tell you the things that you need to do to get this household in order, because obviously you're not doing it. So, when I read the scripture from Isaiah, then, that goes without saying. That's pretty much what it is. You need to do better, because it's not up to the woman to run the household. The Most High said that he will create a helpmeet suitable for you. So, if the Most High gives you a woman that's willing to go out here and work, that's willing, to assist in paying bills, and that's willing to assist in majority of the bills, and you're still sitting around doing nothing, there's something wrong with the brother. It's not always, something wrong with the sister, but what type of man would sit around and allow that? That's just kind of crazy to me. And there was something I wanted to say to you, Emunah, when you were speaking. I think it was Brother Robert that stated that we needed to get back to something, and I just wrote down skipping over pride and ego, because that right there is going to bring a whole lot of us down. If you are prideful and you're afraid of your ego getting hurt, then yeah, that's going to bring the household down. That's going to bring the marriage down. That's going to bring the family down. That's going to bring individuality down. So, pride and ego cannot exist in a relationship. And with that, I just pretty much relinquished the mic. Once again, I thank you guys for giving me a chance to speak. I get, a lot of inboxes from a whole lot of sisters, because I used to do a radio show called Beauty for Ashes. And, just a whole lot of sisters say, have a whole lot of things to say. And when I thought my marriage was perfect, that's when I started finding out there are so many imperfect marriages within a community, and these things need to be addressed. And with that, I relinquish the mic.
Thank you so much for that. You're welcome. Anytime, sis. That was the voice of Sister Ahwar. Thank you for coming through.
The host has joined the conference.
Yeah, sorry about that. The phone dropped. If I could still be heard, we have one more caller. That's Bro.Mercy, and then we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Bro.Mercy, the mic is yours.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you now.
Okay. I was going to say I wanted to slightly disagree with my brother Rob Reed and saying that the women need not be accepting. And see, and the thing I'm going to say is this. The women are really not involved in this process in the scriptures that I propose. You don't see the daughters involved in this process at all. It's between Laban and his nephew, okay? It's between Adam and his creator. Adam didn't go to Eve and say, will you marry me? Now, that's not how it happened. The Most High orchestrated the whole thing. Laban orchestrated the whole thing. He didn't say, well, I'm pretty sure she liked Jacob, but that wasn't of no consequence. That wasn't the main factors in this process. Now, the reason why we got the females in the process is because, let me give y'all another stat. 80% of our households, the male is not in the home. So because the men are not, again, the reason why the women are involved is because the men are asleep. Like I keep going back to Adam, 80% of the household are single family. So, we still going back to the father not being there. So if Laban ain't there, Laban can't check Jacob. So Jacob is a trickster. I know we use Jacob as the example, but remember, Jacob means manipulator. It means trickster. So it's good he got an Uncle Laban to kind of keep some things in check. You follow what I'm saying? So, and Brother Mercy, even though I consider myself a pretty decent guy, I used to be a liar back in the days, and my dad kind of kept some things in check with me. So, sometimes we need somebody to keep us in check because a lot of times we're just not right. So, I would say that's not the lady's fault. See, my thing is I look in the mirror and I stay in the mirror, and I only see myself in the mirror. I don't see the ladies and I see myself. So I keep working on mercy. And as long as I work on mercy, everything works out great. So I wanted to say that is because the women accepting is not even really part of the scriptural equation. It's the men that's not doing what they're supposed to do, and as a result, the women accept it, or whatever the case may be. But I just wanted to bring that out. And I also wanted to bring out the point about, the monetary. Monetary is a factor, as Brother Swordsman stated earlier, because, the bride had a price. But like Mayanah so eloquently said, I love the way she went back to the title. There's one word in that title that Robbery had a problem with, but what I didn't pay attention to, and that was the word entitled. That's a very key word, because I don't think no brothers are entitled to a wife, whether you stable or not. Because, see, the Most High don't have to give you a wife. Look at Paul. Look at Elijah. Look at the Messiah. He didn't have a wife, and he was God's son. No wife. So you can be perfect, and if Most High, if it's not fitting, he won't give you one. So I will say this, if it's not part of the plan, the great plan. So I will say this, no man is entitled to a wife. No man, And entitled also means deserving. It means deserving special treatment is a dictionary definition. I love definitions. You deserve special treatment. So a wife is special treatment to a man. So we don't really deserve special treatment, So I just like to say that to the brothers. Also the scripture says a man receives a wife, he receives favor from the Lord. So again, when a man gets a wife, God gives him favor. And so I just wanted to say that to the panel, and I really like discussion. And my name is Brother Mercy. I have a Facebook page, Messianic Judaism. I did Mercy, Messianic Judaism, and I didn't share that earlier. Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you for that, Brother Mercy. We're going to come to, I'm going to let Sister Mayanah have the last comment here before we close the show. And definitely, Sister Mayanah, please let them know what the last show, for those who have joined us for every show this year, thus far, this is going to be our last show, which is next week, which is the topic that I know many people have been waiting for. So I'm going to let Sister Mayanah get us that last word, and then tell them about that last show, Sister Mayanah. The message is yours.
Oh, well, you know what? I'm really glad that Brother Mercy went back to the title, because that was important. And it was interesting to hear Brother Robert Reed point out that he found entitled problematic as he received it, which is why it was so good that Brother Mercy went to the dictionary definition. Because despite how one might want to receive the word, it has an actual definition, and it means that a man feels that he is inherently supposed to have, inherently deserving, just because he's a man, deserves it, which is why we use the word entitled, because that is what we're looking at. What happens is that very often the conversation becomes, I am a man by virtue of my masculine energy or principle or genitalia, I'm entitled, or all of these things inherently belong to me. I can go around doing things just because I am a man. And that is why this word entitled was in this topic, and is the reason why it's titled this way, is because it's that sense of entitlement that has divorced us from the process. I think it may have been Brother Reed talked about the process. And because we are not looking at, there are steps to these things. In order to have things, as Brother Mercy said, the Most High determines whether or not we are worthy of them. in his time, in his seasons, and by his criteria. And those criteria are very often found in Torah. Torah tells you how to obtain things, the proper way to do business, the proper way to interact with one another as proper neighbors. And yes, how one acquires a wife. There are steps to it. There are certain things that must be in place. You are not entitled to anything just because you are, as Bro.Mercy said, you're not inherently, by nature, entitled to anything. And that's why the word entitled is there. Are men who are without livelihoods entitled? And the fact is, there's a lot of entitlement going on by a lot of men who have no livelihood, which is why we deliberately use that word, not to be able to point out. I'll move on from there. But the other thing that I think that is important, because we are wrapping it up, what I want us to walk away from this conversation with is not that we're asking women to judge the men. That's not what we're doing. The men have already a bit of a circumstance where they already feel like everyone is judging them and everyone is belittling them and everyone has lost faith in them. And it's very hard to overcome that. And that is not the impression that we want to leave the panel with or the listening audience with. Instead, we're asking that the women exercise discernment, that they exercise agency, that they exercise just intelligence and caution and take their time with people. The question of, well, how will I know? Take your time. Watch them. Let these things develop, and then you will know, because they will produce fruit. The Bro.Mercy said that women were not involved in the process. He also goes on to say that because before that, there were elders in place. So, and the also thing is this idea that the men were orchestrating these things. No. Jacob was the only one there at the time. But we see, for example, with Isaac. Isaac had nothing to do with marrying Rebekah. He had no say in it. He was not there negotiating on his own behalf. That was done by elders. Jacob went and thought he was negotiating for Rachel. We saw that blew up in his face. Why? Because the elder made the decision. It's not something that the man was orchestrating either. It's something that elders decided, because families were involved in this. So let's not belittle the woman's contribution to her marriage if we're going to go back to antiquity and deal with the cultural context. In cultural context, it had nothing to do with the individuals at all, but instead it had to do with the compatibility of the families and to what extent we could secure inheritance and to what degree we could ensure that there was going to be future stability for descendants, not just the couple in the here and the now. So, having said that, I think it's a fair conclusion. I wanted to give another anecdote, but giving consideration to the time, I'll forego that. Instead, having closed out the penultimate segment and episode, not segment, but episode, we're bearing down on the final episode, which will be on polygyny. As I stated at the top of this segment, this is the very last segment that we will have a mixed panel, and I'm grateful for all of the surplus of masculine energy that showed up to participate in this conversation, because it will be completely devoid of it next week when we deal with polygyny. The topic will be, or the topic is called, and prayerfully there won't be any objections to the way we phrase it. Polygyny, old wine and new skins. Can it work? So that's going to be our final episode in this segment, the relationship challenge. It will be an all-female panel, and the women will discuss the pros and cons of this marriage paradigm as it relates to the cultural context, both in modernity and in antiquity. And with that, I say good night and relinquish the mic.
All right, thank you for that. And fellas, to the Akim, to the brethren, you're definitely welcome to tune in, and the panel will be all females at the end of the show, definitely. As we probably know, your skin will be itching you, and you will want to kind of chime in. So definitely, you get to hear women having this discussion as pretty much this today. It was an all-male panel. So I really want to thank you. If you missed any episodes, definitely go to Debate Talk for You. This is the final one for this season. I believe South starts up back in September, but this is the final one. We've been going since January. So if you've missed any of the other shows, go on YouTube.com/debate Talk, the number 4 and the letter U, and you'll see all of them come up, as well as all of the other things, whether it be round tables, whether it be debates that Brother Sal puts on. So once again, support the brand. We want to thank everybody for tuning in. And yeah, definitely on that conversation about whether or not the woman wasn't involved, like Mayanah said, the men weren't involved either. This is why we see Shechem telling his father, get Dana for me. And we also see, in the case of Samson, he told his parents, get that woman for me. So really somebody has to speak on your behalf, whether you're male or female. So I just wanted to say that as well. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and hopefully next time Black Talk will be up and running. But until then, everybody have a blessed week, and shalom.